Welcome to today's Explainer, everyone. I am so excited to jump into this one because, honestly, the true crime story we're looking at today out of Guwahati, Assam is, well, it sounds like something straight out of a bizarre movie script. We've got an incredibly unexpected method for a burglary, a timeline that just boggles the mind, and some truly wild items recovered by the police. Okay, let's just dive right into the whole shebang.
So here's the central mystery we're unpacking. How exactly did a traditional festive dress become the ultimate burglar's disguise? We usually associate cultural attire with joy, heritage, community, definitely not crime. But in this case, the very fabric meant to celebrate community was totally twisted into a tool for deception. It's this wild contrast between a vibrant cultural celebration and a really calculated criminal plot. And it all revolves around one iconic piece of clothing, the Mekhela Chador. Let's look at how they set the scene for this.
Section 1. Spring Festivities, Criminal Intent. Setting the scene in Assam.
To really wrap your head around this crime, you have to understand the backdrop, and that is Bohag Bihu. Now, this is a vibrant spring festival celebrated all across Assam, and the police actually describe the entire state as literally swinging to the festivities. And you can picture it, right? It's a time of immense joy, the streets are crowded, there are massive cultural gatherings, and everyone is dressed to the nines in traditional gear. Everyone's in a fantastic mood. And, well, when everyone is swept up in the celebration, our guards tend to go down. A crime seems, highly unlikely. The perpetrators totally knew that. In a sea of people wearing traditional attire, one more person dressed for the occasion absolutely wouldn't draw a second glance.
Section 2. An unlikely disguise. The theatrical trio.
All right, let's take a look at the masterminds, and I use that term very loosely here, behind this plot. We've got three individuals. There's 32-year-old Jad Moni Sharma from Sipajar, his wife, Danada Devi, and rounding out the trio is 31-year-old Gagan Barman. Now, if you saw this group walking down the street during Bohag Bihu, you'd 100% assume they were just a family or some friends heading out for a festive outing. But nope, they were absolutely not doing that. They had a very specific target in mind, a residential house burglary, and they needed a rock-solid disguise to get in and out without raising any alarms.
And here is the absolute twist of their plan. You naturally assume the wife, Danada Devi, would be the one wearing the traditional Mekhela Chador to blend in, right? Because it's traditionally worn by women in Assam. But no, actually, it was the 32-year-old husband, John Mani Sharma, who draped the dress on himself. I mean, wow. He completely masked his identity by posing in women's festive attire. It's just an incredibly bizarre, bold way to hide your identity. He literally hid in plain sight, completely weaponizing the festive dress code to pull off this heist.
Section 3. The Loot and Investment. Plundering Assam's Pride.
So what did this trio actually target? Well, they stole this eclectic mix of high-value and very specific regional items. They took gold and cash, which sure, are pretty standard targets for a burglary, but they definitely didn't stop there. They also took jute, and get this, Muga silk. Muga silk is widely revered as Assam's pride. It's this precious, gorgeous, golden yellow silk that is entirely unique to the state. Stealing it during Bohag Bihu, it almost adds a whole extra layer of insult to the crime, doesn't it? They use the cultural festival as a literal disguise to steal the very fabric of the culture itself.
And then we get to what they did next. This is perfectly encapsulated in an incredible quote from the Guwahati police regarding their quote-unquote idea of investment. You literally cannot make this up. They took the stolen gold and actually pledged it to secure a bank loan. The police noted this totally absurd financial strategy with a bit of dry disbelief, and rightly so. Instead of, just fencing the gold like a typical thief, they tried to leverage it for credit. They basically used the spoils of a bizarre cross-dressing heist as collateral for a loan. It is truly a masterclass in exactly what not to do if you're trying to keep a low profile.
Section 4. Captured and cautioned. The takedown.
Well, as you might guess, the perpetrators' grand plan did not last long at all. The East Guwahati Police District, specifically the team from the Basista police station, was swiftly on their trail. They successfully tracked down and arrested the whole crew, Jayan Moni Sharma, his wife Danada Devi, and their accomplice Gagan Barman. The disguise might have gotten them into the house initially, but it certainly didn't protect them from the ensuing investigation.
And when the police finally apprehended them, the evidence they recovered perfectly highlighted the sheer theatricality of the whole thing. Along with your standard burglary tools, a van and a scooty used for transport, the police recovered wigs and handbags. I mean, they went all out. These items perfectly complement Jan Moni Sharma's elaborate disguise strategy. They didn't just grab a Mekhela Chador and call it a day. They went all in on the accessories to make absolutely sure the illusion of a woman heading to a festival was complete.
In the aftermath of all this, the police felt compelled to issue a very specific and honestly quite severe cautionary warning to the public. They explicitly urged people not to misuse traditional attire for unlawful activities. And it's a sad reality, really, that something as beautiful as the Mekhela Chador, deeply tied to a Sami's heritage, was exploited in this way. The authorities made it crystal clear. Exploiting cultural traditions to commit crimes is going to lead to strict, inescapable legal consequences.
Which brings us to the final thought of our explainer today. How vulnerable are our public festive spaces to those hiding in plain sight behind cultural anonymity? It's a fascinating, if maybe a little unsettling question to ponder. When we gather in large, joyous crowds wearing similar celebratory attire, we basically grant each other a kind of anonymity. And, most of us use it to celebrate and connect, but as we saw with the Mekhela Chador heist, a few will absolutely exploit it to hide. I really hope you found this breakdown as captivating as I did. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and I'll see you next time as we continue to unpack the fascinating stories hidden behind the headlines.